All of this goes back to your friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. How did you first become friends? How did you meet?
This is Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, during his Newsnight interview. I'm going to analyse what he has to say. I've actually never seen this video before, although I am aware of it. To give you some background information on the story, Prince Andrew is accused of having sex with a minor dating back to 2014. It is said that his longtime friend Jeffrey Epstein provided and paid for underage girls to engage in sexual activities with the royal member, as well as other prominent political figures. The victim asserted that she had sex with Andrew on 3 occasions, including a trip to London in 2001 when she was 17. All the flight logs of the two parties suggest that they were together at the time and dates of the incidences in question. Now, it's important to note that this interview was requested by Prince Andrew himself so he could clear his name. I am going to ignore the entire story behind Jeffrey Epstein. I'm going to ignore the conspiracy theories. I'm going to look at Prince Andrew through the lens of this interview only and try and give some insight on what he's trying to say and what he's trying to hide, if anything. So if you do end up liking this video, please subscribe. Let it be known, this is important. A member of the royal family is accused of having sex with an underage girl. Let's see how this goes.
And it would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends. I mean, we were friends because of other people. And I had a lot of opportunity to go to the United States, but I didn't have much time with him. I suppose I saw him once or twice a year, perhaps maybe maximum of 3 times a year, and quite often.
Right, I wanted to observe his eyes straight away. They say that the eyes are frequently referred to as the windows to the soul, since they are capable of revealing a great deal about what a person is feeling or even thinking. Now, when a person looks directly into your eyes when talking, it suggests that they are interested or paying attention. However, if someone is breaking eye contact and frequently looking the other way, as Andrew has done so far, then this could indicate that the person is distracted, uncomfortable, or, most importantly in Andrew's case, trying to conceal his true feelings. Maybe an over-observation, but nonetheless a telling one so far.
If I was in the United States and doing things, and if he wasn't there, he would say, well, why don't you come and use my houses? So I said, that's very kind, thank you very much indeed. But it would be a considerable stretch to say that he was a very, very close friend. But he had the most extraordinary ability to bring extraordinary people together. And that's the bit that I remember, is going to the dinner parties where you would meet academics, politicians, people from the United Nations. I mean, it was a cosmopolitan group of what I would describe as US eminence.
Just a quick word on the interviewer. I know who she is. I've seen her many times on Newsnight when I used to live in England. But let's forget who she is for a second. Have a look at that face. That is a woman scorned.
But during these times that he was a guest at Windsor Castle at Sandringham, the shooting weekend,
Yep.
we now know that he was and had been procuring young girls for sex trafficking.
We now know that. At the time, there was no indication to me or anybody else that that was what he was doing. And certainly, when I saw him either in the United States, when I saw him in the United States, or when I was staying in his houses in the United States, there was no indication, absolutely no indication.
See the clenching of the forehead and the eyebrows coming together? This is him vehemently denying any knowledge of Epstein's sexual activities. I would say based on this, he probably believes what he's saying, or maybe he's telling the truth in this instance where he was not aware of what happened before. However, looking at his body language so far, with his legs crossed, he's certainly in an anxious position and feels threatened.
In 2006, in May, an arrest warrant was issued for Epstein for sexual assault of a minor.
Yes.
In July, he was invited to Windsor Castle to your daughter Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday. Why would you do that?
Because I was asking Ghislaine. But even so, at the time, I don't think I certainly I wasn't aware when the invitation was issued what was going on in the United States. And I wasn't aware until the media picked up on it, because he never said anything about it.
He never discussed with you the fact that an arrest warrant had been issued?
No.
So he came to that party knowing police were investigating him?
Well, I'm not quite sure whether was it police that I don't know. You see, this is the problem.
It was the Palm Beach police at the time.
But I mean, I'm afraid, you see, this is the problem, is that an awful lot of this was going on in the United States, and I wasn't a party to it, and I knew nothing about it.
In 2008, he was convicted of
Yep.
soliciting and procuring a minor for prostitution. He was jailed. This was
Yes.
your friend. How
Yes.
did you feel about it?
Well, I ceased contact with him after I was aware that he was under investigation, and that was later on in 2006. And I wasn't in touch with him again until 2010. So I just
See what she did with her face there? She turned it upside, is looking down on her paper, and look at her lips, because she's about to ask him a question that's contradictory to what he is saying. She doesn't believe a word he is saying. Throughout this whole interview, she hasn't believed a single word. However, regardless of what she feels, she has information now that she's about to ask him that's going to catch him out. I don't know what this is, but that's what her face tells me. I'm going to guess she's going to say something like, hey, you knew this guy was in jail, so why is it at some point you're hanging out with him? What's wrong with you?
it was one of those things that if somebody's going through that sort of thing, well, I'm terribly sorry, I can't be.
So no contact?
No contact.
When he was serving time, there was no call, no letter, nothing there?
No.
He was released in July. Within months, by December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right. I have always, ever since this has happened, and since this has become, as it were, public knowledge that I was there, I've questioned myself as to where I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do? Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together. And I had a number of people counsel me in both directions, either to go and see him or not to go and see him. And I took the judgment call that because this was serious, and I felt that doing it over the telephone was the chicken's way of doing it. I had to go and see him.
Now, there are many crime channels who analyze behavior, give their thoughts on the psychology. I like to give my opinion. I know sometimes you guys don't like it, but I actually do like to give my actual opinion. This guy is lying through his front teeth. Did you see his left eye closed there? He's making it up as it goes along in this sequence. I'm not saying the whole video. I'm saying right now, he is saying, think about this. He is saying that he thought, let me go all the way around to the other side of the world and let me tell this convicted sex offender, hey, we can't be friends anymore. What, did the iPhone or Samsung or BT or Verizon and all these telecommunication networks, did these go over your head? The only reason he went there, if he did indeed say we can't be friends, is because Jeffrey has something on him. That is the only reason.
A number of other things in New York at the time, and we had an opportunity to go for a walk in the park, and that was the conversation, coincidentally, that was photographed, which was when I said to him, I said, look, because of what has happened, I don't think it is appropriate that we should remain in contact. And by mutual agreement during that walk in the park, we decided that we would part company, and I left, I think it was the next day. And to this day, I never had any contact with him from that day forward.
What did he say when you told him that you were breaking up the friendship?
He was what I would describe as understanding. He didn't go into any great depth in the conversation about what I was doing or what he was doing, except to say that he'd accepted whatever it was, a plea bargain. He'd served his time, and he was carrying on with his life. You see what I mean? And I said yes, but I'm afraid to say that's as may be. but with all the attendant scrutiny on me, then I don't think it is a wise thing to do.
Who advised you then that it was a good idea to go and break up the friendship? Did that come from the palace? Was Her Majesty the Queen involved?
No. That came from... So there were a number of people so some people from my staff, some people from friends and family I was talking to, and I took the decision that it was... I had to show leadership and I had to go and see him and I had to tell him, that's it.
That was December of 2010.
Yep.
Again, this re-emphasizes my previous point. Jeffrey Epstein is a nobody in the public eye. Let's be real. Let's be real. The Queen, Prince Harry, William, Diana, Charles, even the kid, I forgot his name, the new one. All of them, they are of stature, so to speak. Regardless of what you think of the royal family, these are public figures. Who is Jeffrey Epstein? If it wasn't for this scandal, Jeffrey Epstein would be another dot on the screen. So why the need? Why the need to go all that way to show some kind of respect by saying, sorry, son, I might get caught too, so we're going to have to cut this off? Makes no sense. I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I looking at it wrong, or do you understand what I'm saying?
He threw a party to celebrate his release, and you were invited as the guest of honour.
Oh, in 2010? There certainly wasn't a party to celebrate his release in December, because it was a small dinner party. There were only 8 or 10 of us, I think, at the dinner. If there was a party, then I'd know nothing about that.
You were invited to that dinner as a guest of honour?
Well, I was there, so there was a dinner. I don't think it was quite as you might put it, but yeah, okay, I was there at a dinner, yeah. I'm
just trying to work this out, because you said you went to break up the relationship, and yet you stayed at that New York mansion several days. I'm wondering how long...
But I was doing a number of other things while I was there.
But you were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay. I've gone through this in my mind so many times. At the end of the day, with the benefit of all the hindsight that one could have, it was definitely the wrong thing to do. But at the time, I felt it was the honourable and right thing to do. And I admit fully that my judgment was probably...
Okay, it's an interesting one. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt for a second. Let's just say he stayed there because it was convenient. He thought, you know what, I'm here. I've told him I don't want to be friends anymore, but while I'm here, let me just stay here for a couple of days. It's not going to be any harm, and then I'll leave and I'll never see him again. Let's just say that was his thinking. By doing so, you're validating him. In a way, think about it. What you're saying is, okay, he's done what he's done, whatever. I'm still okay to be in his presence. I still think he is someone I can trust by staying here for 2 days. He could have gone to an hotel. It seems to me that maybe he's had so much of this abuse around him that it just became normal. Oh yeah, I'll stay with Jeffrey, not a problem. Again, if you give him the benefit of the doubt, fair play. From a PR-wise, from a PR point of view, this is a disaster.
Coloured by my tendency to be too honourable, but that's just the way it is.
Because during that time, those few days, witnesses say they saw many young girls coming and going at the time. There is video footage of Epstein accompanied by young girls, and you were there staying in his house, catching up with friends.
If they were, then I wasn't a party to any of that. I never saw them. I mean, you have to understand that his house, I described it more as almost as a railway station, if you know what I mean, in the sense that there were people coming in and out of that house all the time. What they were doing and why they were there, I had nothing to do with. So I'm afraid I can't make any comment on that, because I really don't know.
Another guest was John Brockman, the literary agent. Now, he described seeing you there getting a foot massage from a young Russian woman. Did that happen?
No.
You're absolutely sure, or you can't remember?
Absolutely sure.
So John Brockman's statement is false?
Well, I wouldn't I don't know Mr. Brockman, so I don't know what he's talking about.
But that definitely wasn't you getting a foot massage from a Russian girl in Jeffrey Epstein's house.
No.
Again, with the eyebrows, see they're squinted, the creases on the forehead. He looks flabbergasted. I think he's telling the truth here. I think here he's thinking, wait, what? Who is this guy? I wasn't there. He looks well and truly shocked. I'll give him this. Fair play, I respect it.
July of this year, Epstein was arrested on charges of sex trafficking and abusing dozens of underage girls. One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
You don't remember meeting her?
No.
She says she met you in 2001. She dined with you. She danced with you. You bought her drinks. You were in Tramp nightclub in London. And she went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Didn't happen.
Do you remember her?
No. I have no recollection of ever meeting her. I'm almost, in fact, I'm convinced that I was never in Tramps with her. There are a number of things that are wrong with that story. One of which is that I don't know where the bar is in Tramps. I don't drink. I don't think I've ever bought a drink in Tramps whenever I was there.
Do you remember dancing at Tramp?
No. That couldn't have happened because the date that is being suggested, I was at home with the children.
You know that you were at home with the children. Was it a memorable night?
On that particular day that we now understand is the date, which is the 10th of March, I was at home. I was with the children. I'd taken Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking for a party at I suppose sort of 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And then because the Duchess was away, we have a simple rule in the family that when one's away, the other one's there. I was on terminal leave at the time from the Royal Navy, so therefore I was at home.
Why would you remember that so specifically?
So this is what I find peculiar now. I read this in an extract somewhere, maybe in a newspaper. He went to a Pizza Express. Now, a lot of you guys that watch my content are from America. Let me explain Pizza Express to you. Imagine if Papa John's was like a Pizza Hut. You know, like a sit down, right? Maybe a little bit more fancy, but that's about it. Why is a member of the richest family in the world, maybe, eating at Papa John's or a Pizza Hut? You understand? If his daughters are going to a birthday or having a birthday or a celebration, you have them in your own quarters because you have a house the size of Mongolia. Maybe he was there, I don't know. But as someone who grew up in Britain, knows the British culture, and knowing this man and his family, I just found that peculiar. And of all the things to remember, that's the thing to remember.
Specifically, why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do. A very unusual thing for me to do. I've only been to Woking a couple of times, and I remember it weirdly distinctly. But as soon as somebody reminded me of it, I went, oh yes, I remember that. But I have no recollection of ever meeting or being in the company or the presence.
So you're absolutely sure that you're at home on the 10th of March?
Yeah.
She was very specific about that night. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, and that was, oh actually, yes, I didn't sweat at the time because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at, and I simply, it was almost impossible for me to sweat. And it's only because I have done a number of things in the recent past that I'm starting to be able to do that again. So I'm afraid to say that there's a medical condition that says that I didn't do it, so therefore.
Is it possible that you met Virginia Roberts, dined with her, danced with her in Tramp, had sex with her on another date?
No.
Do you remember meeting her at all?
No.
Do you know you didn't meet her, or do you just not remember meeting her?
No, I don't know if I've met her, but no, I have no recollection of meeting her.
Because she was very specific. She described the dance that you had together in Tramp. She described meeting you. She was a 17-year-old girl meeting a senior member of the royal family.
Never happened.
She provided a photo of the
Yes.
two of you together.
Yes.
Your arm was around her waist.
Yes.
You've seen the photo.
I've seen the photograph.
How do you explain that?
I can't. Because I have absolutely no memory of that photograph ever being taken.
Do you recognise yourself in the photo?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult not to recognise yourself.
Your friend suggested that the photo is fake.
I think it's, from the investigations that we've done, you can't prove whether or not that photograph is faked or not, because it is a photograph of a photograph of a photograph. So it's very difficult to be able to prove it. But I don't remember that photograph ever being taken.
But it's possible that it was you with your arm around
That's
her waist.
me, but whether that's my hand or whether that's the position, but I have simply no recollection of a photograph.
I do remember the photograph when it came out in the media. It was quite damning to him, to be fair. It did look pretty bad. However, when he says he has no recollection, I believe him. I think he's telling the truth. Doesn't deny, I mean, that doesn't mean he didn't do it. That doesn't mean he's exempt. But does he not remember? Yeah, I think he's telling the truth.
Ever being taken.
The world has now seen the photo that Virginia Roberts provided, taken by Epstein, we understand, in Ghislaine Maxwell's house.
Well, here's the problem. I've never seen Epstein with a camera in my life.
I think it was Virginia Roberts' camera. She said a little Kodak one that she lent to Epstein. He took a photo, and your arm is round her waist.
I don't remember that photograph ever being taken. I don't remember going upstairs in the house, because that photograph is taken upstairs. And I'm not entirely convinced that, I mean, that is what I would describe as me in that picture. But we can't be certain as to whether or not that's my hand on her.
The reason why people found this interview damning, the reason why people thought the more he spoke, the more he incriminated himself, is because he's trying to make people feel stupid. He has just said continuously is that my left arm? Have a look at the photo. Well, it's not the arm from Terminator now, is it? Of course it's your left arm. Now he's admitted that's him in the photo. You could infer, is there something going on between the two? You could just say this is just a casual photo. You could say maybe the three of them are up to no good. One thing you cannot say is that is not his left arm. That's absurd.
Because in a legal deposition, 2015, she said she had sex with you 3 times. Once in a London house when she was trafficked to you in Maxwell's house.
Yes.
Once in New York a month or so later at Epstein's mansion, and once on his private island in a group of 7 or 8 other girls.
No.
No to all of it?
All of it. Absolutely no to all of it.
Why would she be saying those things?
We wonder exactly the same, but I have no idea. Absolutely no idea.
She made these claims in a US deposition.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying you don't believe her? She's lying?
That's a very difficult thing to answer, because I'm not in a position to know what she's trying to achieve, but I can tell you categorically, I don't remember meeting her at all. I do not remember a photograph being taken, and I've said consistently and frequently that we never had any sort of sexual contact.
Here's my conclusion on this interview. He knows a lot more than what he's telling, but let me clarify on that. Let's assume he's innocent, right? Now imagine you're hanging out with your friends, right? And generally speaking, you would know some friends of your friends, right? And then you meet other people who are connected to that circle, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember him, and oh yeah, you remember names, and you know, you have friends, then you have acquaintances, right? That's generally how social norms work. If you go out with your friends, you might see a friend of a friend, say, hey, what's up? And then you go on with your evening, right? How many times does that happen where you see them with someone else, or you see them with a girl, or you see them with a boy, or something? But you remember. So imagine Andrew in Epstein's home, in his mansions, all around the world, all around America, wherever they may be, in London, wherever. How many other people he's come across? How many other people he has seen with young girls? How many young girls he has seen himself? This man knows everything. Even if he's exempt, even if he did nothing wrong, he knows more than what the girls are telling. He knows just as much as Epstein because he was there and he saw it. So do I think he's guilty? Yes, he probably is. But it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. But my intuition tells me that when this does all come out, because it will, it's still being investigated. Epstein might be dead, but Maxwell, his ex-girlfriend, she is in court, or they're trying to find her. When all this comes to light, there's going to be a lot more said about a lot more famous people. Why don't you guys comment? Tell me what you think.